Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Ridger. Good to be with you. We got a lot on the agenda today, a lot going down. Breaking down news of the day, my contributor, Adrienne Lawrence, author, attorney at law, TYT contributor. Also in the Bullpen, my debate segment, we have Kenneth Schrupp. He's back, communications strategist and editor-in-chief of the California Review. We're going to talk about censorship and social media and Elon Musk. Twitter will be part of the conversation as well. First story of the day. Former mayor of Atlanta, she was just the damn mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms. She was told she could not enter and be waited on at an establishment because she had on leggings, okay? There's a lot to this story. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms has called out Capitol Grill after she said she was turned away from the restaurant for wearing leggings. She said, and I quote, "I was just turned away at Capitol Grill at Perimeter Mall because I have on leggings," she tweeted Friday. When someone pointed out that the establishment has a dress code, Bottoms said it was odd that the restaurant would not allow what she called mall attire when they were located at the mall. Let's put up a picture of Mayor. She is a sensible dresser. I would imagine that her attire was fitting. Now, here's the thing. Routinely, restaurants have utilized these rules in a way that is, yes, discriminatory. It's called selective application of the rule. Well, we have evidence of that. It continues. The mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, she said, "I asked if I could sit in the bar area and was told no. Rules are the rules, Madam Mayor. Just wonder if the woman who came immediately after me, who I did not see come back out, was also denied service," she wrote. Now let's go to the restaurant's website. On the restaurant's website, it says that for the comfort of all guests and to better deliver on our promise of a refined atmosphere, proper dress is required. Clothing such as gym attire, tank tops, sweatpants, hats, and items with offensive language is not allowed according to the website. Can I just say this? I know everybody watching this is not from Atlanta. We're talking about Capitol Damn Grill inside of Perimeter Mall. What refined environment are you referring to on your website? I'm not knocking, the food is dope. It's good food. That's why the former mayor was trying to get her grub on. But this is not a refined establishment. No, it's a regular ass restaurant. It's in the mall. Okay. However, social media users quickly commented that the rules are not always followed, and they posted actual pictures of mostly white patrons dining at Capitol Grill while wearing one of the prohibited clothing items that they say must be strictly enforced. Capitol Grill has not released a statement, none whatsoever. They have not released a statement standing by their policy, nor have they released a statement apologizing for the unequal enforcement of the policy. Once again, rules like this routinely utilized in discriminatory ways. A couple of years ago, something happened to a child, a kid. Maybe you remember this. Here it is.
Excuse me, is a manager here?
Yes, I'm a manager.
You are, okay. So we want to eat, and they're telling me my son can't eat here because there's no athletic wear. He's 9, and it's kids out there with tennis shoes on. I don't understand what the problem is.
Who told you that?
There's a guy out there, and we came back here and talked to him twice, and he told me my kid cannot eat here because he has one athletic wear, but it's...
Unfortunately, that's my boss, though.
Okay, can you tell him to come out here and tell me that?
Did he not already tell you this?
No, but I'm gonna have him tell me again.
That little boy got athletic shorts on and some shoes on. It's the same. It's a little girl there that got the same thing he got.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Someone's already explained it to you.
Okay, tell it to me again. You telling me we cannot eat here?
So unfortunately, we do have a dress code. If you have some non-athletic shorts.
But that white kid out there can. eat here with his tennis shoes on and his athletic shirt.
Remember that? There's a plethora of examples just like that. That one was in real time. Rule being enforced on a black child while there's discretion for the white child. Black patron, white patron, violation of the same written policy. One gets enforcement, the other one gets a pass, okay? Now, watch how you saw exactly how the other guy responded, right? He clearly saw there was something not right about this. And then he comes out and says, well, you heard what my manager said. There's nothing more that can be said. That's the problem with culture. You see, at some point, somebody should have said, ma'am, go ahead and sit down, okay? I don't know what the manager is on, but obviously there is an exception at this restaurant. That one was owned by the Atlas Restaurant Group. They did apologize to the young lady and her son, saying the manager in the video was replaced indefinitely, and also that they decided to change the dress code rule so that it did not apply to any children under 12, all right? You see this for what it is, attorney at law. You see exactly what's happening here, unequal application of these policies. Routinely, it is done in a way to show bias against Black people in particular. What are your thoughts on this case with the mayor?
No, you're absolutely correct that this is one of those disparate impact as well as disparate enforcement type of biases in terms of policing our bodies. That's something that we as Black people, particularly Black women, experience often. And then even if you just go back a layer and remove race and you look at these dress codes, they're class-based. And of course, as a result of the fact that there is significant wealth disparity between white and Black communities, as a result of that, it's going to impact Black people differently. But even if we removed all these things and look at the fact that she said she was wearing leggings, get out of here. I wear leggings like I'm getting paid for it. Like there is not an alternative. And right. you can't tell me as well that leggings, that there's something wrong with them. I would assume that given, like you said, given the fact that she dresses very professional to begin with, that she was out here in something with a bunch of holes up different sides and stretchy and highlighted yellow and all sorts of things, as opposed to being in something that is sleek since she's going into the Capitol Grill, even though it is Capitol Grill attached to a mall. So I think that Capitol Grill needs to answer for this. And also they need to get off the leggings trip, because as far as I'm concerned, it did not violate their little policy. And it is completely acceptable attire. Again, they're pants. They are simply pants made with a little more lycra. Leave people alone.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I got another mayor. This is the mayor of Massachusetts. The mayor said, the mayor in Massachusetts, Easthampton is the city. The mayor told a student, a teenager, they don't talk like a white person. Put up the picture full throttle here. Okay. All right. Let's go down this rabbit hole. Easthampton, Massachusetts Mayor Nicole LaChapelle will be investigated by the Easthampton School Committee for alleged racist remarks she made to a high school student during a recent school visit. Yes, she did it intentionally. The alleged racist interaction with the high schooler occurred in Easthampton High's We the People civics class for the annual nationwide We the People competition. All right, the irony. During the April 12th school committee meeting, member Megan Harvey said the committee had received a letter from Sean Sheehan, a science teacher at the high school and president of the Easthampton Education Association, urging an investigation into the incident that took place earlier this month. In a public Facebook post that has now been deleted, the mother of the high school student alleged that the mayor made racist remarks to her daughter in front of the whole class and used the F word before she left the class. The post quotes the mayor as saying, and I quote, "You are different. You don't talk like a white person." And then the mayor later said, "No one effing cares. I had a rough morning," according to the post. Okay, let's put up a picture of the chairwoman of the committee. All right, looks like she got something to say. Cynthia Quincinski told the Gazette, "We do not condone racist behavior or comments of any kind, and that an investigation is underway." due to the early stages of the investigation. She could not expand on the details of the probe. It will also have to wait until the mayor returns from a trip out of the area, okay? In an emailed statement to the Gazette, the mayor said she visited with high school students to help celebrate their participation in an upcoming competition. During the visit, she made comments that she said had intended to motivate students of color. However, the statements had the opposite effect and offended a student instead. That's right. You don't talk like white people. Be motivated. All right. The mayor also issued an apology to the parents of the student in an April 4th letter. In the letter obtained by the Gazette, the mayor stated that she intended for her words to be helpful, but sees now how insensitive they were and how they made a teenager feel singled out. That not feel singled out because you did single out the teenager. So let's do this, all right? Let's do this, let's keep it 100. Racism exists on a spectrum. You have hyper aggressive racism. Those are the people that cannot be helped. And then you have implicit bias. The impact can be the same for the person on the other side of this racism. The implicit bias is that indoctrination which makes you blind to the reality of your behavior and how your behavior impacts those around you who are part of a historically marginalized group. And you say things without the benefit of a barrier known as wisdom. And when you say these things, you are attempting typically to be helpful. But because you have not sought to learn the experience factor associated with blackness or marginalization in America, your comments become offensive. And at some point in the journey of your life, especially when you are a seasoned professional, you must seek opportunity to learn. In other words, at some point, you should simply know better. Adrienne, thoughts on this?
I couldn't agree more. She should have known better. And also too, the thought that she could act like this and speak like this in front of a bunch of young people and children without any regard to their feelings of psychological safety, as well as her whole thought of, I had a hard morning, everything. It really just screams lack of good judgment here. Yeah. And the thought that she's a leader in her community in any form or fashion, no, get out of here with that. And I've heard that kind of stuff before. Mm-hmm. This thought that you have to be a certain way in order to thrive in our society. And of course, it aligns with whiteness. And just for her to perpetuate that in front of a forum and call out that child, it just speaks to her what her character is like.
Yeah, hopefully this is a learning lesson for the mayor, all right? She got a proper education in that school, hopefully. Okay, Alex Jones, dead ass broke, has filed bankruptcy, okay? He's doing a blowout sale. Alex Jones, the companies connected to his brand, to his name, they have now filed for bankruptcy protection following Jones losing numerous defamation lawsuits by the relatives of children killed in the 2012 Sandy Hook shooting. Remember that? During his show on Monday, all right, Alex Jones insisted that he and Infowars have not gone bankrupt, despite the filings of bankruptcy. Then he pitched this.
You want us to be able to stay on air and be able to move forward in the future. I need you now to not wait and to go to InfoWarsStore.com, especially those of you that have never bought a book, never bought a film, never bought a t-shirt, never got a supplement, never got an air filtration, water filtration. Well, there's also a button up on the top of the shopping cart that says support, and it says become a sponsor, and you just click there and you can give a monthly donation or just give a one-time donation, and then we actually get 95% of that money. This is do or die time. If you want to keep us on air through these attacks of the system and the system pulling out all the stops to try to silence us, then this is the time. They are trying to silence you. They're trying to take down the leading voice of resistance.
Yeah, he needs some money. He needs some money. Okay. According to Bloomberg, 3 entities, including one that holds the rights to the website Infowars, sought Chapter 11 protection in Victoria, Texas on Sunday. Each estimated liabilities of as much as $10 million according to court filings. Chapter 11 filing allows a business to keep operating while working on a turnaround strategy. That's what you saw there. A turnaround strategy to pause pending civil litigation. Infowars sells BS nutritional supplements, okay? Prison Planet, an outlet for British YouTuber and proponent of certain ideologies. Paul Joseph Watson are the other two affected by the entity. So lawyers set up a trust, all right? They set up a trust that will pay people suing the companies, and Jones handed over his equity in the entities to the trust. The units in bankruptcy have no purpose other than to hold assets which may be used by the entities, and their only liabilities are the litigation claims according to the court papers. Jones and his companies last year were found liable in a defamation lawsuit brought by relatives of Sandy Hook victims after Jones called the shootings a hoax. A trial in Connecticut to determine the size of the damages has yet to take place. He was also found liable in similar proceedings in Texas. He brought those family members a lot of harm. By establishing a trust to settle legal claims in bankruptcy, Jones companies are following a controversial playbook used by other corporations facing significant lawsuits. Companies including opioid maker Purdue Pharma, LP, and youth organization Boy Scouts of America have sought Chapter 11 protection to settle thousands of cases, streamline payouts to victims claiming harm. Jones put $725,000 of his money to the trust to cover the cost of the Chapter 11 filings. Additional funds, including $2 million in cash, could flow into the trust as a result of the bankruptcy, according to court documents. The trust is a way to ensure litigation creditors can be paid in full rather than get uneven payouts simply due to the timing of trials. Lawyers for the companies said in court papers. Jury selection for the Texas trial is set to begin next week, while the Connecticut trial is still months away. All right, so despite Jones and his lawyers saying the lawsuits against him and his companies are strictly strategic, they are still lying. All right, due to Jones' lies, the parents of the victims were inundated with harassment and death threats. Remember this? According to the New York Times, the family of Sandy Hook victim Noah Posner currently lives in hiding due to the persistent harassment experienced since the shooting. All right, Jones later did walk back his comments and said that he was suffering from a mental health condition. Okay, Adrienne, you gonna cash up Alex Jones some money?
Of course I already did. Patreon. He is just, this man is absolutely absurd and ridiculous. Knowing that this comes off the heels of him offering them, I think it was like a measly $140,000 a piece to each of those Sandy Hook families to settle their suit. It's just, this man is out here destroying lives and making up these lies, profiting off of them. And then now when he's actually being held accountable, which mind you, this is also 1 week before one of the juries was supposed to decide how much he's supposed to pay out, he decides to file for bankruptcy. And it's not his main holding company, by the way. And he is allowed to continue to operate and to do business. Meanwhile, these Sandy Hook families could possibly get far less than they are deserving of. And this is, as I mentioned on Overruled, the segment I do for Rebel HQ, this is exactly what Remington did to the families as well. Right. When they sued for how that AR-15 style rifle was marketed. And they ended up getting paid, I think, maybe $73 million after Remington filed for bankruptcy twice and sold off assets. And the fact is, so many of these companies are out here doing this to avoid liability. They are using the law and also using the court system to their advantage. And it just shows you how our system is set up so that normal, average people who are done wrong by these wealthy, power-hungry individuals cannot get justice. The system is set up against you, so you do not win at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the great irony is that he sets himself up to be such a man of the people, a person who is adversarial to governmental control, that Big Brother is always watching. And then when he's liable, when he's wrong, when he admits that he's wrong, he seeks protection from the same entity he talks against, all right? We got more. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
While the Young Turks, the Friday show is gonna be awesome. We're gonna help us over here. Drop it. We became the first ever daily online web television show.
No, the Constitution is the very core of America. The fact that we don't spy on American citizens, that we get a warrant, that we go to a judge, that we have a procedure, that we have due process, that is America.
On top of that, they go, why don't they just stay at their own schools? You gotta realize something. These schools suck. They want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You ain't got no straps, you ain't got no boots.
He lit these fires in trash bins all around town out of frustration.
99th most viewed channel today on YouTube.
The Shorties Award. Best web host. We passed 1 billion views. Voice Award winner, news and information channel, The Young Turks. Oh, another Webby.
The Young Turks.
Can I curse? Yeah! For those of you watching on live stream, yes, we have adopted a pet iguana that showed up at our door. A haunted version in the dark with our silhouettes. Now let's get to the best line of the debate. And it was definitely the one against police. I told you we were coming.
When you talk about it when it becomes a problem. Our lack of gun control is a problem.
Nonsense BS story is hurting that cause, and they need to wake up and recognize that they are being had by these people.
Biggest gang in America. Question is, how do we make sure that we blame the person who is dead? What kind of democracy is that?
We should never forget that the most powerful people in the world exploited the greatest tragedy in American history to go to war in a country that had a lot of oil.
Rolling thunder. That's what this show is.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy. Tick-tock. I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency. Tick-tock. And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock, and we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country. November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
My name is Carlos Hernandez. I am the valet parking for this small parking lot. I work for TYTs, and they coming to this lot over 4 years. I know two more famous person, Bernie Sanders, the former Vice President Al Gore, and too many other guys. I'm so happy to cover it with TYT.
Back to back that I like.
Say hi to the camera.
I don't like this.
Welcome back. Okay, let me read some of these great comments. Before I get to the comments, don't forget, very exciting Dragon Squad. All right, I know y'all already on it. Everybody needs to be on this. The Damage Report has been nominated for a Webby Award in the video, news, and politics category, okay? Be sure to head over to tyt.com/vote or vote.webbyawards.com. Cast your vote, make it known. We can win this thing, all right, together. Once you voted, share it on social media, okay? And don't forget the watch list every weekday. The big homie, Jared Jackson. The watch list. Subscribe at youtube.com/watchlisttyt. Follow and like on facebook.com/watchlisttyt. Let me read a few of these comments. This was my exact sentiment when I saw the mayor's tweet. I Am Sock says, Capitol Grill, what's next? Getting denied by Ruby Tuesday? And it's the Capitol Grill at the damn mall, in addition to it being a Capitol Grill. All right, KevZ247, Lord, they after leggings now. I know, don't take away the leggings. Divolve says selective enforcement makes policies seem like excuses. Exactly. Yep. Crystal Townsend. Karen is motivating the youth to vote her out. That's right. She is. All right. Nana Nikki, this should be illegal. Talking about Alex Jones using Chapter 11 to, stiff other people. Charmed, I think this is Chaos, says I accidentally wore a tie to a restaurant known to enforce dress down policy, but this isn't that. All right. Okay. Got a doozy. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free. Back off. I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
So I'm a single mom here who can't ever go anywhere, and I finally have a babysitter so I can come in here trying to goddamn bra, so I can buy a bra that fits me. I'm in here before closing. It is now, I don't know when I started this, now 8:35. They close at 9, I have all my stuff. They helped me fill the bag. They measured me to try on to see what size might fit, but so I could go try them on. I put the things in, they let me try on 5 bras, and they take the bag and tell me I can't try on more and I need to leave. I cannot try on more because not everybody tries on a goddamn bra, even though they told me they knew I don't know the size, and now I'm leaving. All the stores are closed and I have no bra. I have no babysitter. I get a babysitter to come here and now I have no bra, no babysitter. And
Ma'am, are you doing okay?
I am great.
Okay, I'm gonna make you calm down, please. We have other customers.
I was trying to buy a bra. She will not let me try on this. I already was trying on the bras and she took them and said I can't finish trying them on. I have a babysitter to come babysit. I just wanted to buy some bras and she won't let me. She won't let me.
No, it's not that we're not letting you. We let you try on 4 bras.
It's not 9 yet. I tried on 5 and I asked her to trade them out and she says it's time to go. Not everybody, we're closing, you can't have more. I wanted to trade them out. That's all I wanted to do. She refused to let me do it.
Okay, well you can trade them out.
Don't you even stand there give me looks, lady. I just want to try on a bra, please. I have a babysitter. It's the only time I can get a bra.
Well, can I get your 5 items back and I'll give you 5 more?
I have them. I asked her to do that. She told me no. She said I cannot do it. The fitting rooms are closed. Why are you looking at me like I'm crazy? She's so rude.
I do have more video, but I want to say something because I'm concerned now. I'm going to recommend for all white women to stay away from Victoria's Secret just until we can figure this thing out, okay? There's obviously a connection between bringing out the worst Karen in you and Victoria's Secrets. I don't know what it is. All right, there's more video. Here it is.
You're scaring the rest of our customers.
Well, she scares me. I just wanted to try on a bra. That's all I wanted.
We have other customers and we have children as well.
Then can I just finish trying my bra on in here quietly by myself like I was doing before she starts doing that to me?
Ma'am, you were not being quiet in the bra fitting area, madam. You were quite loud talking to whoever you were talking to on your phone. There's more.
I'll never come back here again. That was the absolute worst experience of my life.
If that's the worst experience you have ever had in your effing life, you're winning. You are winning, Karen. I gotta tell you, if that's the worst thing that you've ever gone through in your life, which was all self-induced, by the way, you are winning in America. Adrienne, thoughts?
You know, just like you're saying, if this is the worst experience you had, it's weakness on overdrive. Are you out of your mind? I pray this individual isn't raising a child and was getting a babysitter for a dog or a cat, because it's like, if this is gonna break you, we got a big problem. On top of that, has she heard of online shopping? It's a thing where they'll send things to your home. You can try them on, and oftentimes they'll let you send them back and they will not charge you for it. Nordstrom is one of those places. Perhaps give that a shot. You can order multiple bras and multiple different sizes. Like, come on, lady. And also that, as someone who used to work retail and used to work fitting rooms, I can tell you, when it's a wrap, it's a wrap. Time to go. Time to go. And Victoria's Secret's not only held to account for its own, it's in a mall. So it needs to get people out so it can shut it down, so they can shut the entire mall down. This is a group effort. This woman needs to get a hold of herself and be part of the group.
Yeah, somebody needs to do an intervention quickly. Okay, prison guard. A prison guard, all right, helps white supremacists attack inmates. I kid you not. Let's put up a picture of the county detention center. Let's put that up, all right? A federal jury in Oklahoma found a former corrections officer guilty on Friday of facilitating white supremacist attacks on incarcerated Black people. You hear me? Matthew Ware, a former corrections officer supervisor at the K County Detention Center, violated the civil rights of 3 pretrial detainees. In 2017, Ware commanded lower ranking officers to move 2 Black detainees to a cell that housed white supremacist inmates. The release stated, these inmates posed a danger to the detainees, D'Angelo Wilson and Marcus Miller. Remember, he did this intentionally. Later that day, Officer Ware ordered the other officers to unlock the doors to both the jail cells and the detainees and of the white supremacist inmates. When Ware's orders were followed, the white supremacist inmates attacked Wilson and Miller, the Black males, resulting in physical injury to both, including a facial laceration to Wilson that required 7 stitches to close, according to the release. In 2018, Officer Ware directed lower ranking officer to restrain Christopher Davis, another pretrial detainee. This was routine for this corrections officer. Davis was placed in a stretched out position in which his left wrist was restrained to the far left side of the bench and his right to the far right side, the release said. Davis remained in that position for 90 minutes and sustained physical injuries as a result. The restraining act is believed to have been a retaliation for Davis criticizing the way corrections officer Ware ran the center. Ware will be sentenced in July. He faces a maximum of 10 years in prison, a fine up to $250,000 for each violation, and 3 years of supervised release. Now, we couldn't find a picture, and believe me, we searched, my production team searched. We were trying to find a picture that we could verify of Officer Ware. We could not find one. They're trying to hide this guy. But we found a picture of the director at the jail. Here it is. That's the picture, okay? See that guy, right? The director of the detention center is Don Jones. There is ample evidence that Mr. Jones knew about the inmate abuse. Back in 2019, Stephanie Wright, let's put up her picture. A former K County Detention Center employee sued the jail, and a former boss is in federal court alleging she was fired for reporting sexual harassment and blowing the whistle on inmate abuse. including an incident where an inmate was allegedly cuffed in a crucifixion type position. This has been going on for years. What do we have here? We have a cop who has been convicted, a corrections officer who has been convicted of helping white supremacist gangs beat up black incarcerated bodies, human beings. What does that mean by extension and by logic? That means the corrections officer is a white supremacist or subscribes to the ideology. What else does this mean based on the information we have, the factual basis here? The officers who carried out these illegal orders are part of that culture too. See, this is systemic. Now, I have a question. Why is it that only this one person is going to prison? He can't operate inside of a private prison without having a cohort, a culture that allows it. He has a boss. He also has people that work alongside him, and he has individuals that he supervises. All three layers of that bureaucracy inside of that private prison, that private jail, allowed this to happen without any challenge. And the story that we have that has been documented by the court is that others carried out his dirty deeds. Why are they not going to prison right now, just like him? Until we start attacking the culture of a thing, this system, corrupt systems, will always sacrifice their most problematic person. They will throw them under the bus for the sake of saving the corruption and their own culture. They don't want you to actually unravel the rest of the story. They want you to fixate on the one person who has been caught to such a degree that there is no way to save them. But remember, we have it on record. Others were involved, and there's ample evidence that the guy in charge is truly the kingpin. He's the guy who they should go after. Where's the RICO Act? Adrienne, I know how these things work typically with people that are in charge and they're not really getting their hands dirty, so to speak. That's why the RICO Act was created, in order to still find these individuals guilty by way of connection and orders, mandates of other people. Why do we not see the RICO Act applied in cases like this, where there's obvious connection from the leader to the workers and illegal activity being carried out?
Well, we have to bear in mind that the system was founded on white male supremacy, and by virtue of the thought that if we actually pursued these charges, it'd mean a lot of white males would go down for engaging in behavior that advanced white supremacy. And so that implicit bias and that implicit desire to continue to reinforce the systems that are drivers in society, that is what's at play here. And we're not going to see any semblance of justice ever if we continue to allow people to engage in this behavior, because they're going to keep engaging in it. Simply cutting off a branch is not going to change anything when that branch is going to grow back, if not spawn new branches. It's just, it's a system that is completely and totally broken, and removing one person is not going to change anything. I'll also mention the thought that this woman spoke up about the sexual harassment she experienced. That's something I will always say. Racism and sexism run hand in hand. They are ride or dies. Where there is one, there is the other. So the fact that this woman had come forward about that, also it tells me that this is exactly the kind of system, the type of work environment. It's just that systems of oppression are everywhere, and they are fully activated and in full effect.
You gave me such a great direction for an example I just thought of. You're right. Basically, what they're doing is they're ripping off a branch. A branch is going to grow back rather than uprooting the tree.
Yeah.
The tree has a complex root system. The tree is strong and it is established. You have to unroot the tree in order to get rid of the corruption. And we see the unwillingness of actual leaders to tackle these big, overwhelming projects inside of institutions that are corrupt to the core. It's easy to get rid of a branch. It is hard to uproot a tree, but we're gonna continue to push for that hard work. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm wearing one of our pieces of merchandise. So the funny thing about the Dragon Squad, and that's what our viewers call themselves. That's the name of the group, but every individual chooses their own name. You might have Cincinnati Dragon. You might have Harry Potter Dragon. We have a Grandma Sunshine Dragon is one of those that I remember. These are people that like to have an element of themselves, their lives, what's significant to them reflected as a part of the community. But the concept of the Dragon Squad is just something I threw away as a joke. I was mocking the Proud Boys, these like right-wing groups that come up with a name for themselves that they think is cool, but it's actually really lame. And I thought, off the top of my head, I can come up with something that's still kind of lame, but much cooler. And so I threw out Dragon Squad and I just moved on with my life. But everybody liked it, and so they kept it going, and so we've embraced it. And I think again, this was during the period of the pandemic. I think it was sort of nice to have a renewed sense of community, a feeling that you're a part of something when everything seems so chaotic. And as a result of that, we've got independent artists online streaming, making beautiful digital art of dragons. We've got, we've released a number of pieces of merchandise that people love sending us photos of them. And then by the way, for me personally, people send me, like you can probably see in the background, like a knitted dragon someone sent me. There's a dragon book they sent me, dragon board games they send me. People have done like custom ironworks, making dragon bottle openers. Like the fans are super invested in diamond art and things like that. And so it's great that they send this stuff. Sometime we're gonna have to set up a wall of all of it. But yeah, it's definitely brought the community a lot closer together. The fact that we were no longer in this big studio, I felt a lot more personally attached to people. It felt very immediate. And I know that I personally needed the connection.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's Plant Your Change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No. No.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
Welcome back. We got a lot of show left. Let me read a few of these comments. Okay, I think this is reeling in. At least she isn't on the floor. Talking about the Karen. Randy Laurie says, who the heck does she need? Why the heck does she need a babysitter to get a bra? Yeah. By the prison guard, Megan Satana says, not surprised, I was set up to get assaulted for being trans. It's a damn shame. Sorry that happened to you. talking about the prison guard, Keisha Immortal, says, I want to know when we're going to do something about it. It's obvious these types have been infiltrating these professions for decades and getting away with it. Getting away with it for decades, no penalty whatsoever. Okay, let me bring you to a real live murder mystery, okay? You see that guy? He's the sheriff of LA County. He's involved somehow, okay? There's a man who was suing the sheriff of LA County. He has now been found shot and dead, okay? Let me give you some background. A man was suing the sheriff of LA County. Villanueva is the sheriff there for being physically abusive to him during an arrest where he was assaulted, according to the allegation. All right. Although he was found by the Long Beach Police Department on 3/29, they did not notify his family until 4/5. All right. Now the family wants the AG or the Department of Justice to investigate, and they should. Let me put up a tweet from the lawyer. Okay. The lawyer of the men involved announced on Twitter about the death of one of his clients. Said, and I quote, a few months ago, my clients, Larry Jefferson and Christopher Chambers, filed a lawsuit against Sheriff Alex Villanueva and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department after being brutalized by several deputies. Recently, Larry was found dead after having sheriff's deputies sitting outside his family's home. That came from the attorney, okay? Let me give you background on the incident that caused the lawsuit in the beginning. Let's put up a picture of Christopher Chambers. He's an important person in this story. Last year, that man, Christopher Chambers, called emergency services to ask for help for his brother-in-law, Larry Jefferson, who was having a mental health episode, okay? When cops arrived to the scene, let's put up a picture of the scene. When cops arrived to the scene, deputies got out of their vehicle, shocked Jefferson with a taser, hit him with rubber bullets, causing him to fly backwards. Remember, this is a mental health call, right? Chambers, unarmed and wearing pajamas, then came out of his house telling deputies that Jefferson is not right in his mind, according to the suit. Despite presenting no threat, Chambers was held down by 4 deputies to the point where he could not breathe. Chambers was later taken to the South LA Sheriff's Station and charged with resisting arrest and assaulting a police officer. He was released from jail the next day, and then the charges magically dropped, okay? So what happened here? What do we know so far? Mental health call, a person going through a mental health crisis. Police respond, they physically assault the individual, criminally assault the individual, charge him falsely, take him to jail, and then drop the charges immediately. That's rare. When a cop drops the charges, that means they don't have an inkling of evidence to stand on, all right? Following the incident, LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva was sued, all right? He was sued for his alleged support of the deputies who used excessive force and committed multiple civil rights violations. That's what the lawsuit alleges. The lawsuit specifically says that guy created an atmosphere within the LA County Sheriff's Department where civil rights violations are not only approved, but encouraged. And remember, not too long ago, I did an exhaustive story about gangs inside of LA County Sheriff's Department. We talked about it. Not only did the sheriff acknowledge that some of his deputies are in gangs, okay? He also acknowledged it's not a damn thing he can do about it. So yes, the LA County Sheriff's Office, they have a gang culture inside of the sheriff's office. Now I go a step further. I think virtually everybody there is part of a de facto gang at LA County Sheriff's Department. Last year, a journalist authored an investigation that talked about those gangs into the department ran by the sheriff. There are at least 18 gangs, according to this investigative reporter. At least 18 gangs in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We're not talking about in the jail. We're not talking about incarcerated people. We're talking about the police, the cops who have their tattoos and their other identifying marks and handshakes. 18 gangs, according to the investigation, and they are allegedly tied to deaths of at least 19 people, all of whom, every single one of them, were men of color, all, no exception. And here's another game that they play that we found out. Every time, and there are cops doing this inside of gang culture in policing all across America. When they kill a black person, they bend their badge. They bend one of the stars back on their badge. And that's how they show how many bodies they have. These SOBs are sick. They're sick. They need to go to jail. All right, Adrienne, thoughts?
They do need to go to jail and something needs to be done. And we're acting as though, or at least I'd say society is acting as though they are the end all be all, the buck stops with them. But that's why you have federal enforcement. That's why you have DOJ. That's why you have investigations at a higher level. That's also why you have even the state attorney general conducting investigations. So where are these entities? When all of this is known about the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, yet what is being done? The fact that everyone knows this, but no one's really stepping in to intervene. Is it because they realize they're allowing the gang to get out of control? Then what's going to happen when they ended up taking over, when it goes even further? It's like they're allowing these diseases to spread. And then at one point when it's gonna kill us all, we're all gonna be sitting here like, why wasn't this stopped well in advance? I am perplexed.
Yeah, and that's why we got to stop talking reform and start talking replacement. There has to be a massive overhaul of the actual people that do policing for the culture of policing to change. Okay, a prison guard has been caught in Florida ordering a hit on another person. Let me give you the background. Put up his picture. That prison guard was caught ordering a hit. Prison guard in Florida is accused of trying to arrange a murder. Authorities in Miami-Dade County, Florida said that guy, Jose Alcazar, 49 years of age, a corrupt officer at the privately run South Bay Correctional Institution in nearby Palm Beach County, did in fact try to get somebody murdered. He tried to set up a killing through an inmate's nephew, who was actually an undercover cop, according to the arrest report obtained by the Miami Herald. Alcazar allegedly brought up the plot during a meeting outside of Denny's, okay? In the version of events from authorities, the undercover officer agreed, saying he and his people would do their homework and let Alcazar know when they were ready. Now, keep in mind, he was not under investigation for attempting to put out a hit on somebody. He was under investigation for something else corrupt. And while he's under investigation for something else corrupt, he then says something that trumps that investigation, because putting a hit out on somebody is more corrupt than what he was being investigated for. I got the background. Alcazar allegedly wound up on law enforcement radar after inmates, incarcerated people, told a Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office investigator that the officer picked up drugs and contraband every week. Authorities said they set it up so that the undercover officer posed as a nephew of one of the inmates. In the March 12th meeting, the undercover officer allegedly gave Alcazar 3 SIM cards to deliver. The price, $1,200. Amid 3 weeks of communication, the corrections officer also allegedly asked the undercover officer for a .380 revolver to take into the facility. A .380 revolver inside of a prison, okay? There's more. During the April 11th meeting, he allegedly gave the undercover officer cocaine in an Icebreaker's gum container. In return, the officer gave him $1,900 in cash, $400 for the drugs, and the remainder went as a down payment for Alcazar's $10,000 price to transfer the uncle out of South Bay, official said. He's trying to make big money, okay? Being corrupt. That's how he got on their radar. The defendant remains locked up at the Turner Gulford Night Correctional Center on charges including first-degree solicitation of murder, introduction of firearm or explosive device into prison, introduction of communications device into prison, cocaine possession with a firearm, armed possession of marijuana with intent to sell, compensation for unlawful acts, and criminal solicitation. Put up his picture again. Okay. There's a reason why these types of people are attracted to law enforcement. How many stories like this do we have? How many stories have we told similar to this one? Okay. How long has he been getting away with it? Well, case is pending. Maybe we'll find out. Adrienne, in all of your years being an officer of the court, have you seen something like this inside of a jail, inside of a prison? This guy was literally smuggling guns inside of the jail. What are you going to do with a gun inside of the jail that you think you can get away with? I don't understand. It's such a controlled environment. Is he really going to kill somebody inside of the jail?
I'm sure he's going to do all sorts of things or find ways. It's really indicative of our culture. The fact that, like you said, people are so attracted to going into law enforcement or into being in this carceral state in some ways so that they can engage in criminality. And it makes you realize too that the system supports this, because you can't tell me that others around him had no idea whatsoever, or that others around him are not engaging in similar behavior, even if it's not to the extent that this individual was. The fact is that our system is set up this way to allow this behavior. And so hopefully this man actually faces consequences and doesn't get a slap on the wrist, because it seems that he is committing every potential crime he could in the book. And hey, but we've got to see if the rules are going to apply the same to everyone, because as we know, law enforcement often gets a pass when it comes to being held accountable for criming.
Listen, and I think he's already kind of getting a pass, or at least the group of corrupt actors are. You know this. Prisons have control systems so that one person cannot manipulate all of those systems, which means he's been working with somebody. He's working with somebody. Somebody has to say, okay, we'll bypass that protocol. We won't check you on this. Employees have to go through screening at all prisons. So he's in a culture that has not only protected him, but probably works with him. I don't think he's getting all of the money to himself. I think there are other people involved. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I absolutely agree with you. You can't get away. You can't get away from this. It takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to commit all of these offenses and to continue to involve these things, especially when, like you said, you're in a controlled environment to a certain extent. There are other people involved, and even if he's not giving up names, the people know. But the system will continue to operate just like it does in the LA County Sheriff's Department.
Once again, like you said, Adrienne, he's a branch, right? He's a branch. He is proof that the tree is corrupt. That's what he's proof of. So instead of uprooting the tree, we're just going to take the branch off and another branch will grow in its place. Okay, to the live linear audience, that concludes this hour. The streaming audience, we will continue. Do yourself a favor on the live linear, hop on the streaming so you can get the rest of the program. Always good to have you with us. Okay, once again, police stealing money, okay? Police steal the money of a woman. Put up her picture. This is so damn sad. 62 years of age, they stole her money, okay? Jefferson County, Alabama. That woman is now suing the town of Brookside, its former police chief and two unknown officers. So during a town hall address to the Brookside police's aggressive ticketing controversy, Janetta Jones shared her story. Jones recounted how in December 2021, while on disability, the two unknown officers stopped her car for no reason, saying they could stop whoever they wanted. They also questioned how she could afford her car. And while being detained more than an hour, They took $5,000 in life savings from her, kept her prescription pain medication, which then led to a vehicle search by police with drug sniffing dogs without her consent. She is a 62-year-old woman. The officers then told her she could leave, but when she asked for her life savings and pain medication back, they simply laughed at her. We have additional reporting from AL.com. The lawsuit is the 13th filed against that same police department, or one for every 96 residents in the tiny North Jefferson County town, very small town. It claims Jones was falsely arrested and imprisoned, and that her rights under the 4th and 14th amendments were violated. It seeks damages. The lawyer, Roger Appel, argues in the suit that Jones sought to find her money and tried over and over again to reach Brookside Mayor Mike Bryan and former Chief Mike Jones, but that her phone calls were neither answered nor returned. Brookside has been at the center of controversy since January, when AL.com wrote how its rapidly expanding police department had used aggressive ticketing to criminalize drivers and bring in half of the town revenue through these ridiculous tickets. Let's put up their picture. All right, on the left, Brookside Mayor Mike Bryan. And on the right, the former police chief, Mike Jones, okay? While Jones had resigned over the controversy, the mayor has stated previously he has no plans to step down despite the public calling for his resignation. On Friday, the Alabama Department of Examiners of Public Accounts released an audit of the town. It outlined a series of problems, including chaotic storage of evidence, missing guns, unexplained guns, a trash bag filled with prescription medicines, undocumented cash, and improper accounting procedures. Now, this brings my memory to a story I covered some years ago in Dothan, Alabama. And the trash bag of pills was an important marker for what happened in Dothan, Alabama. According to the previous internal affairs investigator who went on record about this, he said that they would keep loose drugs, cops would keep loose drugs in order to plant drugs on individuals in Dothan, Alabama. He went on record about this. He was a captain in the Dothan, Alabama police force. Obviously, this is problematic. We have covered other stories of individuals who have gotten their money taken by forfeiture, a seizure, or something to that extent. This seems like regular old theft. All right, Adrienne, will she get her money back? Will she get her life savings back?
Yes, without question, she should. But I don't necessarily know if she will. Too often have we seen the case where law enforcement takes from people and just takes, and they get it stuck up in the system. And especially individuals who don't necessarily have access to certain resources can't get it back. And it's theft and it's wrong. And of course, this is something that befalls people of color most often. It just shows you how the system is committed to oppressing us and holding us down. Even if we do work for money and we do try to establish ourselves, the system will find a way to tear us down and to hold us down.
Yeah, very well said. Always a pleasure having you on Indisputable. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
You can catch me on Rebel HQ, which is on YouTube and Facebook for my segment Overruled. Also, I am on Twitter at Adrienne Law and at Instagram at Adrienne Lawrence.
Always a pleasure. All right, we got more. The Bullpen is next. Stick and stay. The concept of the Young Turks means the audience they are the young Turks. They are the go-getters. They are the ones making the emphatic change happen in their local community. The reality is that we've always, young and the not so young, we've always cared about news. But when you do not see the messengers of the news look like you, when they do not share your experiences, exposures, and environment, and there's a disconnect between you and the news. I lecture in mass communications. One thing I tell all of my students, there is no such thing as non-biased news. It never has been. Non-biased news has always been an illusion. Let's go back to the 60s and 70s, where people would say that was the purity of non-biased news. News has a segment. That segment has a time. That time, you must do your story and be finished. That means the producer, the writer, the orator has to take out what they don't think is important and only leave in what they believe is important. They have a limited time to tell the story. They do not have time to tell everybody's version or everybody's side. And they get to choose the facts that they bring to you, as well as the nuance, which really is a word for opinion, that they bring to you, the context they bring to you. So we've always had a level of bias in news. Here's the issue. The issue is to not deceive individuals as if you don't have some level of opinion with your news commentary. And that's what TYT has never done. They've always been authentic in their approach to progressive ideology and their news analysis and political breakdown. And I think that's how you actually win the heart and soul of individuals who are consuming information from you, because now they see themselves in you.
This is where it all began for many elected progressive leaders. The Young Turks was one of the few media outlets to cover the races of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, and many, many more. We know a great majority of the country is actually progressive, and TYT is here to amplify these issues so that we can have better policies that a majority of the country actually supports. We want to drive positive change, and then we've been doing that for 20 years here. That's why we're launching Canvas 2022, a campaign to get out the vote and amplify progressive candidates, the progressive agenda, and their primary races. The midterm elections are fast approaching, and we know mainstream media won't cover progressive voices, but because the TYT audience is too strong, we can make a difference in the midterm elections to help progressives get elected and make sure our priorities are heard. Support our mission to drive positive change. Visit tyt.com/canvas2022.
There is so much heinous news out there. That's why we've got to laugh, not to cry. So join me, Francesca Fiorentini, and some of my progressive friends, comedians, actors, experts, and activists, as we deliver an hour of laughter and analysis every week on my podcast, The Bitchuation Room. The Bitchuation Room is an invitation for all of us to take ourselves a little bit less seriously while still giving you some concrete ideas for action. New episodes are available every single week. So join the Frantifa and listen to The Bitchuation Room on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your TYT network podcasts. And make sure to subscribe and give the show 5 stars, because I like stars.
right, welcome back. We got a lot of show left. Let me read some of these amazing comments. I only can read a few, okay? Shy Coltrane 42. Police abuse is rampant across the country, but in smaller towns, it's off the chart. That's correct. I agree 100%. Daval says, survival of LA and other police gangs, they are almost ruthless criminals. They are most ruthless criminals in my experience. Guest says, her life savings is $5,000. Just let that, just stop right effing there and think about how horrible that is. That's true. That's so sad. Ian's mom says, I appreciate stories like this because they would slip through the cracks. Now we can blow up their phones and demand answers for this nonsense. That is correct. That's the idea. That's what we do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. He's back. We have Mr. Kenneth Schrupp, communications strategist and editor-in-chief of the California Review. Good to have you back on the program. How are you?
I'm doing well today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We're going to chop it up about social media censorship. Maybe we'll get into Elon Musk to a lesser extent. I don't want to presume what you know or believe about this big debate about Twitter and Facebook and others who may censor content. So if you would, give us your sentiment and I would then opine.
Sure. Well, I think that the ongoing debate is really a matter of whether or not we think that we need a public square and what the role of the public square should be. In times of past, we used to have actual physical public squares where people would go to share ideas. These were called forums. If in Rome, they had the Grand Forum where people of the time would give speeches for hundreds to hear and debates to carry on for hours. Today, that's all gone on to the internet. We don't really have places like that in person anymore. On campuses, we don't really have a huge exchange of ideas because those all get shut down. Online really is all that we have left. I think the same can be said of much of mainstream media. So for conservatives who aren't able to have as large a voice in the major outlets like NBC or the New York Times, the internet and social media companies are the place where they can actually transmit their news and be heard. Elon Musk's attempt to purchase Twitter, I think, is a reflection of a desire for a public square on the internet without making use of any government mandates like changing Section 230, requiring companies to allow any kind of speech they want.
All right, so let me go down the list here.
Sure.
When you compare social media to the public square, let me tell you where you're misstepping, where you're incorrect. One of the dynamics of the public square is that it was actually owned by the public. It was on public property. And because it was on public property, there were particular freedoms associated because government cannot infringe based on the First Amendment of the Constitution, your speech. Now, naturally, no freedom is absolute. You do agree with me on that, correct?
Oh, of course. I mean, you're not allowed to be naked. You're not allowed to commit or incite violence in the public square.
That is correct.
Right? There are things you can't do.
But I hear this comparison a lot, that social media is akin to the public square. Well, number one, the public square still exists. It's up to you to go to it or not. Number two, the public square is owned by the public. 98% of what has been deemed a public square was government property in the middle of a particular community, in the middle of a town, typically the downtown area. So you can't make these comparisons on a factual basis because they are two very different entities. Social media is a private company. That's like saying, if we're going to start calling social media the public square, just because a lot of people frequent social media, what's to stop us from calling the arena that's privately held the public square? Because a lot of people in the population frequent the private arena.
You know, I really love it when progressives come out and defend private companies and private property rights when it comes to freedom of speech. Hey, look. I agree that it is private property, right? And they can choose what they want on or not on that. All I'm saying is Elon Musk would like to spend over $40 billion to purchase Twitter, to create a public square, because quite frankly, we don't have a well-functioning public square in our republic. And without that, I'm not really sure that we're going to be able to work out the differences in policy that we need for the coming challenges in the next decade. We have big problems coming to term in the next 10 years.
Okay. And you think Elon Musk is going to solve them. So let me go to this part.
Well, I don't think he's going to solve them. I think the platform, like having a public square would be a start for the internet.
All right, so let's talk about this. Let's be adults, man, about the conversation. In order to engage on a social media platform, you do have to sign a user agreement that is a private company generated user agreement. To go to the public square, you had no such signature for the user agreement. Let's go to the Elon Musk issue, all right? Number one, I cannot dismiss the reality that 2 weeks ago, roughly 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Elon Musk making an illegal or doing something illegal that netted him $156 million in profit, right? So
what was that?
When he didn't disclose his shares. Are you not aware of that?
No.
All right, so Elon Musk was 11 days late in to publicly declare that he had amassed a large stake in Twitter. Because of that 11-day delay, that omission earned him an additional $156 million. That's according to about 14 legal experts and securities experts. So that was the conversation 2 weeks ago, that he committed this unlawful financial crime and netted $156 million because of it. Now, after he was in the news for doing that alleged illegal activity, he then later said, "Oh, well, F it, I just buy all of Twitter then. I'm, hostile takeover, right?" And now what are we talking about, brother? We're not talking about the $156 million property made from the alleged illegal activity. We're now talking about his legal takeover of a company that he was just cited for doing something illegal with 2 weeks ago. So the whole narrative has changed. Now I'm just making that as a side note. I'm back to a serious point, okay? Let's talk about what Elon Musk is actually presenting. I don't have a lot of love for the guy personally, but I do weigh his sentiment on the facts. He's what is called an absolutist, all right? Free speech absolutist. Are you aware that he is a self-described free speech absolutist? Do you know that about him?
Yeah.
Okay, what does that mean?
I don't know. We'll see, right?
Okay, let me tell you what that means. So, a free speech absolutist simply means that there's an individual who believes so much in the principle of free speech that they would fight against any regulation thereof, even with a private company. Let me tell you why that's problematic. Do you have children or do you have young people you mentor, younger brothers or sisters? You got some young folks around you?
Well, not really, no. But I can imagine that there's things that I wouldn't want them to see or hear.
Right, okay? I'm a father. There are things I don't want my teenage daughter to see or hear. On a platform that's privately held, she signed a user agreement. There were some things in that user agreement that said that they will make a good faith effort to protect her from, right? Okay, great, everybody signed this user agreement. Elon Musk, according to his free speech absolutist doctrine, would say, no, we're going to rip away all of these restrictions. We're going to allow the N-word. We're going to allow rampant racism. We're going to allow all speech that's legal. Remember, saying the N-word is not against the law. I don't want children, I don't want myself exposed. I don't want the communities that I love exposed to that kind of language on a platform that we signed a user agreement privately that said we wouldn't have that. He's saying we're going to get rid of those restrictions as long as the language is legal. We're going to allow it, which also will destroy any brand support. He even admitted that he said he's not doing this to make profit. He's doing this to save the world or some Messiah-like garbage he spewed out the other day. So tell me your sentiment about that. That in his ideology, he would allow racism to run rampant on his version of Twitter. You okay with that?
So here's what happens when if he does that, right? You allow anyone to say anything. Users are all going to leave. You think the journalists are going to stay on it? You think all these people are going to stay on it? It's going to become an empty shell, and someone or a bunch of legacy groups are going to band together and start a new one. And then Elon will have lost $40 billion.
Okay.
Guess what? I don't care. That's his prerogative. It's his money.
So
if he
you,
wants
but
to piss
do
it
you
all
think it's
away,
a good
that's up to
idea?
him.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So, but do you think it's a good idea? You think it's a good idea for him to take over Twitter, eliminate these common sense restrictions? All right, to say racism.
What is a common sense restriction? Like
you can't use racial terminology, racist terminology on a social media platform and not be penalized for it. That's common sense to me.
I think it's reasonable to create an environment that people want to participate in, that you have to remove certain kinds of swearing and racial slurs.
All right, well,
that's
Elon
perfectly
Musk
reasonable.
Disagrees with you.
Well, he's going to lose a lot of business, but that's
Okay.
up to him. As you said earlier, private property rights matter. If it's his company, he can do what he wants.
Let's talk about 230, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, because this comes into play here, right? So this is basically what it says. It says no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. Simply put, if I put something on one of these platforms, the platform is immune from prosecution, okay? But there's a good faith effort that must be maintained by the platform that says we will do our due diligence to regulate the platform. If you do not provide any level of due diligence to regulate the platform, courts will hold you contributory negligent in the content that you did not publish. You simply allowed for the publishing. We've seen these publishers not only be civilly fined, but have been criminally charged when they have decided to simply ignore the other side of the rule known as 230, the Section 230 rule. So what Elon Musk is submitting, dear brother, he's saying that he's going to intentionally violate Rule 230, but he still wants all the protections of Rule 230 so that he's not personally or through way of his company liable for what happens on the platform. He wants his cake with icing and eating it, right? He wants all of it. He wants all the perks and benefits, but he doesn't want to provide the good faith effort to regulate. You think that's appropriate or fair?
Well, I mean, the law as it is what's created a situation where that is possible, right? Section 230 is what allows these social media companies to effectively serve as both publishers and platforms. There used to be a distinction between publishers and platforms before the internet. Publisher was someone like a newspaper where there's an editor looking at every word. They're like, okay, this is said, we're going to be held responsible for whatever's published on here. Platform, AT&T, if I want to go send a bunch of expletives or whatever, AT&T is not responsible for what I've sent. Right now, due to Section 30, social media companies tend to be able to act like publishers. They can actually remove whatever they want. They have the full power to do that, while typically not actually really being held liable for the content that's posted on there. Like a good faith effort, like who knows what that even means? Who knows? Like have an AI algorithm that just automatically sorts out certain words or phrases or images? Or does that mean having content moderators go through and approve everything like a publisher? Who knows what that means? But as it is, Section 230 is what allows this lack of liability, is what has allowed the internet to become what it is, which is, social media at least, which is a place where most people can post many things.
Let me opine, man, because I find it kind of interesting. On one hand, you're arguing for more people to have free speech opportunity on platforms. That was the idea behind 230.
Right.
230 comes along to say, okay, because we want these platforms to encourage full participation. In order to do that, we need to strike a balance here with the law. In order to do that, we need to make sure that every single person on the planet cannot sue this one social media company or this one platform. But we also need to make sure that the companies are responsible for a good faith effort to regulate the content so that libel, harassment, things of that nature do not exist as a culture of that particular platform. And that's what good faith effort means. It doesn't mean they get it perfect, but that does mean a judge can look at it case by case and determine this is not a good faith effort or this is, right? So it provides protections while at the same time freedom for individuals to post. It protects your freedom of speech, obviously, because Congress is not making a law abridging it, which is the constitutional measure. So, but then you're arguing, it sounds like you're trying to make the other argument too, that you liked it when it was more restricted back in the day?
No. I mean, what I'm trying to get at is that the law wasn't perfect when it was created. It was created as a stopgap measure because people didn't understand the internet or what happened with it. The idea was to create a actual digital public square. And this would give social media companies.
Brother, if the public square is not owned by the public, that's an important distinction. All public squares were owned by the public, brother. It was public property.
I think, but what I mean is like something that fulfills similar functions to that online.
Okay.
That the
Are
owner,
you advocating for the U.S.
for.
government to create its own social media platform?
No, but there are plenty of private.
That would make it a public square.
No, I mean there are plenty of private individuals who have the money and time to do something like that.
That would make it a public square. It would then fit your argument. If the government created a social media platform, you then have your public square. So why are you not advocating for that?
Honestly, that's something I hadn't considered, and that could actually be a great idea. Who knows? I mean, who knows? Why not?
All right,
we should try it out. We should try it out.
Change the minds and influence of people.
But let's consider something else, right?
Okay.
Let's consider the fact that social media companies, the progressives believe that there's not enough being done to censor things, right? There's not enough censorship of misinformation, etc. Amy Klobuchar put it that bill.
I think they could be better. Correct. I believe so.
I think that in some ways there is too much censorship of certain things that progressives don't want out there, right? Like remember the Hunter Biden laptop story from the New York Post. Right before the election, Twitter took it down. If you posted a link to it, you were suspended, you got strikes against you, the link wouldn't show up. A year and a half later, the New York Times has confirmed everything in that story and everything on that laptop. The same thing can be said of the Wuhan lab leak hypothesis, right? If you're posting about that in 2020, you would have been suspended off of these platforms.
I get your argument, and I'm running out of time. I have 1 minute left before the next show. I completely get your argument about having disagreement with how the content is regulated. I think those are credible arguments, case by case, to make to the place that you sign or with the place that you signed a user agreement, right? You are one of the consumers. You have a right to say, this is what I don't like about the establishment. To say that you want the government to fundamentally change the establishment is to say, well, I went and ordered food at a restaurant. I don't like the fact that my food was cold. And so now I want Congress to make a law that would make this illegal. Now you're going from a personal issue to now a public policy dynamic. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit here.
No, what I'm saying is I don't want the government to have to make any new rules or change things because quite frankly, they're just gonna screw it up like they always do, okay? We have a crazy South African billionaire with enough cash to just buy a platform and try to do something a little bit better than what we have now.
Yeah, but it will be worse.
Allow more to bounce it. Well, we'll see. If it gets a lot worse, I'm gonna leave. I'll get off there too.
All right.
So that's his loss.
All right, so we'll see what happens, man. Always a pleasure having you on the show, brother. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right, don't forget, Deep Dive is next. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.